Sometimes the cover-up ends up revealing more than the crime itself. That's what's happening with Ghislaine Maxwell, who has been linked to protecting Donald Trump while denying any wrongdoing. But recent moves by Trump and his lawyer, Todd Blanche, have brought fresh attention to serious allegations Maxwell may have witnessed, according to new prison testimony. Before we dive into the latest updates, including a federal judge's response to the DOJ's recent actions, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to support our work.
Grand jury records from the criminal case against Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's accomplice, noting in part that the materials do not identify anyone other than Epstein or Maxwell who had sexual contact with a minor. And joining us now for more on this is MSNBC's Ken Delanian and former federal prosecutor Barrett Berger. So Ken, break this down for us. What are we hearing from this judge?
This was a resounding ruling on a totally repudiating the Justice Department's request to unseal these transcripts, really saying that there are no special circumstances here and it's not in the public interest to violate grand jury secrecy by throwing this stuff out to the public, in part because the judge said these materials would reveal nothing new. They're basically a summary of things that are already in the public record from the trial of Ghislaine Maxwell. I'll just read from one of the passages here. A member of the public familiar with the Maxwell trial record, the judge wrote, who reviewed these grand jury materials would learn next to nothing new. He said they do not reveal new venues at which their crimes occurred. They do not reveal new sources of their wealth. He's talking about Epstein and Maxwell. They do not explore the circumstances of Epstein's death, and they do not reveal the path of the government investigation. He further said there's no client list in here. As you said, there's no allegation that anyone else had sexual contact with minors. And he is saying that really the only decent legal argument to release these transcripts, this was remarkable, is that it would show that the Justice Department's argument for doing so was totally disingenuous and may have been more about distraction than transparency. Those are the words of a federal judge, Anna.
And so, Bear, what's your reaction to this?
It's clear that Donald Trump and Pam Bandy's push for grand jury transcripts and so-called new evidence was meant to distract and energize the MAGA base. But with more people paying attention, the judge's response, calling it a cover-up rather than a real search for evidence, could backfire. Once again, the attempt to hide the truth only exposes deeper issues, echoing what an Epstein survivor has said about Trump and leading to a new, shocking Maxwell revelation.
I think that, one thing I think it's important people understand is that this chaotic process that's been unfolding has a real cost for survivors. A central part of trauma is a feeling of a lack of control, and that has certainly been triggered here. These meetings, even this, prison transfer was something I expected we would learn about, prior to learning about it in the news. And unfortunately, that's not how it has unfolded. Honestly, just even learning that the DOJ would be meeting with her was extremely disturbing. This is someone who has been convicted of sex trafficking, by a jury. She not only procured girls and young women for Epstein, but she also participated in the abuse of minors. The rumors that followed about a possible commutation or pardon, very upsetting. And then with this prison transfer, I think it again feels like she is getting preferential treatment. That sounds like something that's unprecedented, and it's really worrying to us about what might be coming next.
Well, one of the things she was accused of lying about involved you, and at trial, just so everyone remembers, your mom actually testified that when you went to the ranch in New Mexico in 1996, that Jeffrey Epstein had promised your mom you were going on a retreat and that there were dozens of other girls who were going to be there, that Ghislaine Maxwell was his wife. And then you got there and you were the only one. I should know people who are on the far right describing Ghislaine Maxwell as the victim here.
Yeah, I have seen that as well. I think this attempt to sort of rehab her image in order to potentially, make some sort of commutation more palatable. But I've actually felt, really appreciative of the public's response to that. It feels like that campaign is not working. People recognize that she's a predator, not a victim. And I think that any additional lessening of sentence or negotiation will really be met with a lot of outrage and seen as a sign of some guilt.
If the president's not ruling it out, a pardon, and he just emphasizes that he has the ability to do so, I wonder what you would want to say to him about even considering that?
Yeah, I just would want him to know it would be devastating for the victims of Epstein and Maxwell. I mean, this was the one person who was held accountable for these crimes, and she was held accountable for her crimes, not for someone else's, but for the ones that she committed.
She has always been a liar. And it is disgusting to anyone who has been abused by these individuals and their cabal of criminals, which includes Donald Trump. It's appalling that they would call on Ghislaine Maxwell, especially when she's been known to lie. And that is exactly what is being reported by someone who was in the same facility as her in Tallahassee, and what she had to say about Donald Trump. A massive bombshell in this case. Ghislaine Maxwell, hit by wild claims she tried to give Trump dirt to Biden. Ghislaine Maxwell tried to offer Joe Biden's team dirt on Donald Trump during the lead up to the 2024 election. According to a fellow prison inmate, Maxwell is serving 20 years in prison for helping lure, manipulate, and groom young girls for Jeffrey Epstein, who died in prison in 2019. But it was common knowledge among the inmates at the Federal Correctional Institute Tallahassee, the low-security prison in Florida, where Maxwell was housed until a few weeks ago, that she hoped to avoid serving her full term by trading information for a presidential pardon from Biden. A former inmate named Catherine Canali told the Daily Mail, "I heard her tell another inmate that she had dirt on Trump and that it was going to get her a pardon from Biden. The inmate said, I guess Biden's camp just didn't want to go down that route." Trump and Epstein were good friends for more than a decade. His name appears reportedly in the FBI and the Department of Justice's investigation files, though he has never been accused of any wrongdoing. Biden's Department of Justice concluded in a 2022 sentencing memo that Maxwell was unreliable and unresourceful, writing that she apparently decides when she wishes to disclose facts to the court, and those facts shift when it serves the defendant's interests. She lied about cutting ties with Epstein, lied about receiving money from him, and lied repeatedly under oath during a deposition that was conducted as part of a civil lawsuit brought by one of the victims, the memo found. In a brazen, but perhaps not surprising twist, after Biden's team allegedly rejected her efforts in 2024, Maxwell, 63, is now seeking a pardon from the same man she previously tried to implicate, Donald Trump. During 9 hours of questioning with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who was also Trump's former criminal defense attorney, Maxwell told Blanche earlier this month that she had never witnessed Trump behave inappropriately. "I don't believe Biden's DOJ was seeking dirt on Trump from Ghislaine Maxwell, but it's clear she openly talked in prison about having damaging information on him, likely hoping it could be traded for a pardon." While she once floated the idea of getting one from Biden, that was never realistic. She's a convicted criminal, and her credibility is questionable, regardless of whether her claims hurt Trump or anyone else. If Congress wants to question her, fine. But any testimony needs to be viewed through the lens of her self-interest. What stands out is that in 2022, she was speaking about Trump's secrets, and now she's flipped sides, apparently betting he might pardon her. Meanwhile, the media's coverage of both her and related scandals has been weak, a failure called out by voices like Bernie Sanders.
Of ownership in media. Why do you think the American people don't discuss the important issues facing the working class of this country? It has everything to do with the fact that you have 6 major media conglomerates that own and control what 90% of the American people see, hear, and read. And these guys are smart. What they want to do is to make sure that you do not discuss the Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp. You got Rupert Murdoch. You all know who Rupert Murdoch is? He's a right-wing billionaire. He owns Fox, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Post, HarperCollins, and right-wing media throughout the world. Billionaires own and control virtually every major newspaper and radio network in the country. That is the country that we are living in, and that is the country that we are going to change. Now, the oligarchs, they're not just content with owning America. They also want to destroy our democracy and move us toward an authoritarian form of society. Now, democracy is not a complicated process. What it means is one person, one vote. But ever since the disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision, we have seen billionaires pour hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars into both political parties. Now, if some of you want to become the most important person in government, I'll tell you right away how you can do it. All you have to do is spend $270 million, like Mr. Musk, to get your candidate elected president. And then the next day, no problem, you become the most important person in government. You could use your right-wing ideology to lay off tens of thousands of federal workers. And it's not just the Republicans, it is the Democratic Party as well. So at the top of our list, if we're going to retain and expand democracy in America, we got to overturn this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision and move to public funding of elections. If you want to run for office, or if you want to run for office, or if you want to run for us, I want you to be able to do so. But you should not have to beg billionaires for campaign contributions and be beholden to them. So you're living in a country where the people on top have never had it so good. But what else is going on in America? Well, we got two worlds. One, billionaires doing great. The other one, middle-class work.
Independent media matters now more than ever, especially with corporate outlets suppressing truths in the Trump era. But simply claiming to be independent isn't enough. You must be free from billionaire influence, willing to call out those billionaires and the topics their journalists can't touch, like the genocide in Gaza. That's what we aim to do here. If you support that mission, subscribe, like, and drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I will see you soon.